tonight. Yes, some kind of mindfulness gap.
Well, today is the class on meditation. So
Okay.
we're moving on to the perfection of meditation.
Oh, nice.
Is there class next week?
No, there
okay.
isn't. Is that your tea back there by
Yes,
the... I felt the cup and it was warm, so I figured it was somebody's. Yes, so next Tuesday, no class here because I didn't want to conflict with people who might be able to go on the retreat. So if you're not going on the retreat, then you get a homework break. But if you do get the chance to go, it's going to be beautiful. Okay. Tonight's class is beautiful, actually. And we are moving on to the perfection of meditation, so it's kind of appropriate that it's
Totally.
before Doug Bienhoff's visit. Welcome. Hello, Tomoko. I'm Sherri. How did you find us?
My friends told me about this class.
Okay.
I've been doing Bikram yoga only, so I
okay.
would like to try different kinds of yoga now.
So were you at the yoga class before?
Yes.
Okay, and you're staying. Good for you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Have you studied any Buddhism before?
No, actually, my grandfather is a Buddhist monk.
In Japan?
Yes,
Okay.
but I never studied anything about it.
Wow.
I just was raised in Buddhist circumstances. That's all.
I understand. I'm Japanese also,
Mhm.
and so Buddhism is kind of
Right.
our culture,
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
But I know Farah has heard this story many times, but I really felt like I had been sitting in a room of Buddhism all my life, and finally Geshe Michael turned the lights on for me. So it was in 2004 when I read The Diamond Cutter, which is one of the books we have back there in our shop, actually. And it's actually a book on how to succeed in business using Buddhist principles.
Oh, really?
And it's a fascinating book all about cause and effect and the real causes for things, where things really come from. And it's a fabulous book. But really, up until I read that and then fell upon all of these teachings, the Asian classics teachings, I had no idea about the practice side of Buddhism. Like, we understood the philosophy side sort of intrinsically without knowing the scholars and the actual, I couldn't quote you names and dates, but the ideology, the concepts are kind of imbued in the Japanese culture. But, just like in the Tibetan or in any Asian culture that is imbued with Buddhism, sometimes it can be very dogmatic and very ritualistic and really not about the fundamental truths of, not to say that they're not practicing anything true, but like sometimes people do things just because. We go to temple just because it's Oshogatsu, or we go to temple just because it's, someone died. And, like it's very respectful and very beautiful, but we don't understand why. And this lineage is teaching me why. It's answering the question why, which is, and it's, all the lineages do that for different people in different ways. This is the one that particularly is very clear to me anyways. And so the Asian Classic Institute, our courses are a series of 18 courses. Each course is 10 classes long. This is the 7th class. So we're 3/4 of the way through of ACI 11, which is, now ACI 11 is smack in the middle of 3 courses that unpack Master Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life is actually taught in the monasteries. I don't know what it's called in Nihongo, actually, but it's definitely the book as we've had it translated. The original book is from the monasteries, from the Nalanda Monastery, right, Myra Jean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an actual verifiable document that has been studied in the monasteries for many, many years. And it teaches us 6 different Well, they say ways of being, ways of thinking, ways of acting, but really it's the attitude, it's the understanding and embracing the intent of each of what they call the perfections, the 6 perfections. But our lamas like to call them the perfectionizers as opposed to the perfections, because they are what will make you perfect as you try to perfect them. Because it's a bit of a catch-22. You can't perfect them until you are perfect, but you can't get perfect until you perfect them. But so it seems impossible, but how you get there is by trying, by practicing, by doing your very, very best to perfect the perfections to the best of your capacity. And in the trying, you grow your ability and all of that. So the Asian Classics courses cover not only this book, but 5 great books of Buddhism. And they're all very, very beautiful, very different in flavor. If you come to a course that's about logic, or if you come to a course that's about, ACI 1 is gorgeous. It's called The 3 Principal Paths. And it really teaches us about going for refuge and understanding why we're doing any of this at all. Some of the courses like ACI 3, which is actually applied meditation, is much more technical. Or the Bodhisattva Vows course, which is ACI 7, is much more technical. Gives you lots of lists and lots of... The Vinaya course is something like that too. And then we get to some really intense courses like the 2 logic courses, ACI 4 and ACI 13. We get really, really well-versed in debate, classic Buddhist debate. And we do have debate practice here every 5 weeks also. Actually, Mary Jane, we switched it up and we include debate now in the ACI curriculum. So we teach 5 classes, and then we have a debate session on those first 5. And then we teach the second 5, and we have a final debate on, so that if anyone is doing the homeworks, quizzes, and final, you're prime. Final's going to be a walk in the park. And John, our Giku, tells me that you 2 were some rock stars in the debate last time. So you'll be the next Gikus, I can tell. Giku is Tibetan for debate master. ACI 11 is the middle. ACI 10, 11, 12 unpacks this one book, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And then 13 is logic, 14 is lojong, and 15 is what the Buddha really meant. It's the practice of Trengye, which is to know what was literal and what was figurative. Big course on emptiness, actually. So those first 15 you can take for free by correspondence. It's all available online. Either of these lovely ladies up front can tell you where to look for the information. The audio of this class that I'm about to give tonight, you can listen to Geshe Michael Roach's original dissertation that he gave in the late 1990s. And it's beautiful, and I highly recommend it, especially because tonight's course is laden with Tibetan. Laden. And he's literally translating on the fly. But I also ask that you don't listen to them before class. If you're planning on coming for more classes, listen to them after the class, because it's always good to come with an open mind and to listen to it afterwards. Yeah. So let's start class. We always start by doing a little refuge prayer. Zoe, are you familiar with the... Yeah, okay.
Not.
Oh, okay, here, yes. So this is a little hand mudra. Interlace your fingers, and then grab your pinkies with your thumbs, your baby fingers with your thumbs. Yeah. Grab your middle fingers with your index fingers and stand your ring fingers up.
These 2 fingers come together.
Yeah, so I find it's best if you just interlace pinkies with your thumbs, middle fingers with your index fingers, and your ring fingers stand up.
Okay, so this, you hold on to this. Good. There we go. Good. These come together. And then...
Yeah, bring the backs of your fingers together. It'll be easier. And then crisscross those. Yeah, you've got it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
So what this represents
Uh-huh.
is the mandala. So this is Mount Meru, and these are the 4 continents. Yeah. You know what? Let's do it in English so we know what we're asking for.
Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the 4 continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha, and I offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnuya Tayami. I go for the refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for the refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for the refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being.
So we are in class 7 of ACI 11, and we're working our way through the 6 perfections. We've completed the perfection of patience. I was going to call it the perfection of anger. Because it kind of felt like that, didn't it? The perfection of anger, which is the perfection of patience, which is the antidote to anger. We know how that week went, or those 3 weeks. And then we moved on to the perfection of joyous effort, because we need to be, we all know we have to work hard for anything, right? But in your practice, it's not about just working hard, it's about working hard with delight, working hard with such joy, such exuberance, that the effort, it's not that the effort seems effortless, but the effort is very rewarding, very rewarding. So that was what we spent the last couple of classes on. And today we're moving on to the perfection of wisdom. No, perfection of meditation. Wow. Sorry. This is really interesting. I've had a headache for 4 days, and it's very mild, and I am not taking anything for it. I'm teaching, so we'll see how I feel at the end of class, but I apologize in advance if I'm a little lungy. So say samten.
Samten.
Tibetan sounds a little Japanese, I find, but that's Tibetan. Samten is the perfection of wisdom. No, perfection of meditation. And you know why I'm making that Freudian slip? Because the perfection of meditation flops you over into the perfection of wisdom, and we're going to learn tonight about one of the 2 main types of meditation, which absolutely requires understanding wisdom. So, but we are in the perfection of meditation. Okay, so you know, they say any culture that has a lot of words for something, that thing must be very important. For example, the Eskimos apparently have hundreds of words for snow. The Tibetans have many, many words for meditation. Because I think the word I'm most commonly familiar with for meditation is gom, which is like to repeat, to habituate. So samten is the perfection of meditation. Yeah. So because we are following Geshe-la's original, we call Geshe-mako Geshe-la for short, and he did actually teach this particular class, like the last one, by reciting the Tibetan, which we are going to try to mimic, and then giving us the translation. We will try that.
Do you have a copy of the Tibetan?
No, we're just gonna do it by phonetics. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say it and you're gonna repeat it after me. But I was going to ask, you're actually versed in Tibetan, aren't you?
Well, I'm a beginner,
but
but
you might
I
be able
found a fantastic teacher this fall.
Yes.
And the second half of the class, after grammar, we focused on translating
Lovely.
Shantideva.
Who's your teacher?
He's just a young man around 30 years old. No religious training or anything. His name is Sonam Chusang.
Sonam. He's taught us too.
Yeah.
He's
yeah.
very sweet.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet. He's very good.
fantastic.
He's taught here actually. Okay, so we are going to do our best, and Mary Jane, you can correct our pronunciation if it sounds
I'm
odd.
not too good orally.
So repeat after me. Duda Sendru,
Duda
Sendru.
Kienye ni,
Kienye
Yini,
Yini,
Tingzen,
Tingzen,
Lashok.
Lashok.
Sembe Namba,
Sembe Namba.
Yembe mi,
Yembe mi,
Nomo,
Nomo,
Chewe,
Chewe,
Tranawe.
Tranawe.
I think that's supposed to be not Nomo, but Nyomong. Let's say that again. And I know this because I know what the word is. Sembe,
Sembe,
Namba,
Namba,
Yembe,
Yembe,
mi,
Mi,
Nyomong,
Nyomo,
Chewe,
Chewe,
Tranawe.
Tranawe.
Because I do know that the word for mental afflictions, for klesha, which is Sanskrit, is Nyomong.
Exactly.
So I knew that Nomo was supposed to be Nyomong. Okay, so what this means, this is the opening phrase, the opening verse of this chapter on the perfection of meditation. And Master Shantideva, who wrote this book, who originally recited this book, but then left a copy for our benefit in the rafters of his room in the monastery, says that we're moving on to the perfection of effort, and you should put your mind into one pointed concentration. And that second phrase that we recited says that if you allow your mind to wander around, then your head is between the fangs of a monster, between the fangs of your mental afflictions. And so he gives the metaphor. Mental afflictions are any thought that disturbs the peace of your mind. And he gives the analogy that a mental affliction is like a monster, like a grizzly bear with fangs, and your head is right in between the fangs, and the fangs are about to close. Like, that's the imagery that is replete in those beautiful Tibetan sounds that we said. So what he's talking about are two things. Tingenzen is the Tibetan word for single-pointed concentration. I like that word, actually. That's one of the... I can remember a handful of words, like Pluksam Namdak, Lelo, Nyomong, and Tingenzen. Tingenzen is that single-pointed concentration. So Geshe-la wanted us to think a little bit about what single-pointed concentration looks like what it means. And we just went through the Olympics, right? And when you watch those athletes performing, my parents were all over the figure skaters, and I can't stand to watch them because I feel that by my watching them, they fall down. That's just my own little superstition. I know I have nothing to do with it, but that's just... So I don't watch. I just wait to hear what the results are. And especially knowing from these karma classes that I can't possibly be affecting that, but it certainly feels that way. But when you are watching, they are so single-pointedly focused on whatever it is they're doing, right? And in that, they're in the pursuit of a gold medal. So it's quite remarkable. Or Geshe-la was his lama, his teacher, his abbot was watching a lot of baseball. Do you know that Ken Rinpoche used to watch a lot of baseball, not because he particularly liked baseball, but because it was the way he studied English? He said that, it was the best way because they don't swear in baseball, and it was always just a lot of constant English commentary. So he listened to it to improve his English and also to make his students feel at home, because when you've got, the voice on a TV playing, it kind of sounds familiar, right? But anyways, all that aside, he was saying that when you watch a good baseball player and you see their eye on the ball, you can almost see it in slow motion, like their focus is so pointed and singular and fixed, right? So all of that could be one-pointed concentration, but that's not what we're talking about. But those are examples, right? They do have concentration, but this is not the Tingensen. This is not the Buddhist concentration that we're talking about, okay? It's because this type of concentration has to be focused on a virtuous thing, on something very specific, okay? So that's the Tingensen conversation. The Nyomong, the mental afflictions, is this caution, this warning that if we let ourselves be at the mercy of our mental afflictions, it's like putting your head between the fangs of a monster, is said as a caution or as a reason, as a motivation for why we should perfect the perfection of meditation. Because if you do perfect your concentration, if you do perfect your single pointed focus, then you won't fall prey to that. You won't suffer at the monstrosity of your nyomongs, of your kleshas. So in that phrase, he's just given us two functions of meditation. Did you catch that? I'll repeat it. So the first one is that, or actually I kind of said it in reverse order, but the first kind of meditation is that if you don't keep your mind in a meditative state, your mental afflictions will destroy you, like a fierce monster or a big animal. And in this, because I said actually Master Shantideva's given us a clue to the two types of meditation that are most important in that phrase. But he's giving us the clue by telling us what not to do, right? He's saying, don't let, like, your mental afflictions will destroy you. So what he's talking about in that is a meditation that is an all-day meditation, an all-day awareness. Geshe likes to call this the office meditation. Like if you have to go to work in an office, you're focused, right? And it's a state of mind that you maintain from the time you wake up until you go to sleep. Because when we think of meditation, we think of being in lotus position on a cushion, or, actually my teachers say full lotus, half lotus, or no lotus, but you're sitting on a cushion, you're in a silent space, you've got, you're in a conducive space to contemplation by yourself, usually. Or it could be in a group setting like the retreat coming up with Doug Vinoff, but it's a formal meditation, right? And that's not what we're talking about in this first one. In this first one, we're talking about just keeping a heightened level of awareness and mindfulness and focus all day long. Because what that will do is protect you from the monsters of your mental afflictions. That's kind of cool. The second one is the one that we think of more as classic meditation. And he starts to explain why deep meditation is important. Actually, what we mostly do when we practice meditation is we're preparing how to get into a level. Like, the Tibetans are very, very kind. They tell us we're meditating from the first time we watch our breath for 10 counts, right? The yogis are a bit more strict. It is not meditation until you have actually achieved the highest level of, like, it's not meditation until you've achieved what we're going to call like shamatara vipassana, like that highest co-joining of the mind. And it's like a body-mind balance, and it goes beyond just contemplation. What we would call, like 90% of what we would label as meditation, the yogis would just say you're just contemplating. And so what Master Shantideva is talking about is the same meditation as what the yogis talk about when they talk about deep meditation. And really the ultimate deep meditation is to see emptiness directly. And it's important to get to that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more today too. So those are the two types of meditation that are explained in that opening verse. One, that we, by saying, if you don't maintain meditation, if you don't maintain a single pointed focus of your mind, you will be like someone caught between the jaws of a grizzly bear, right? And in that, he's saying we need both all-day mindfulness, all-day meditation, what Geshe likes to call the office meditation, and we need deep meditation. We need both. We need both of those types. When you are in meditation, be it either of those kinds, the all-day kind or the deep kind, you are in a very good place to avoid the two extremes, he says. When I hear two extremes in our lineage, I always think of the two cliffs. You know, everything exists or nothing exists. That's actually not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the two extremes of meditation, which are agitation and dullness. So these, when you get good at meditation, at contemplation, you will be able to avoid the two main obstacles to meditation. So here are the obstacles to reaching deep, deep meditation. The first one, say Gyurpa. Gyurpa. It's agitation. It actually means, Mirgyurp means chimpanzee, and Gyurpa, I call it monkey mind. It's the mind that just swings from branch to branch, from thought to thought, it's the one that is jumping around, you know, flipping, skipping from object to object, from sense to sense. It's just like attracted to this, then to that. You know, it's just the mind that flits. And it can be flitting from virtuous thing to virtuous thing, but if that's not what you're supposed to be meditating on, then it's a monkey mind. Like if you're supposed to be meditating single-pointedly on your Lama, and all of a sudden you're thinking about the laundry list of how everything that has to happen for Doug Bienhoff's weekend, even though that's virtuous, it's not your meditation, right? So it's your monkey mind going, I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, then I've got to make chai, and then I've got to go, you know, it's like that's distracting, right? So that's agitation. The next one, say Jingwa. Jingwa is dullness. And we're talking about the gross, stupid, lazy mind that generally comes from overeating or oversleeping, or actually or getting not enough sleep. Like if you don't get enough sleep, you can also get this dullness. Mm-hmm. So you know, back to this maintaining your meditative mind all day long. It doesn't mean that you're zoned out and on this, you know, meditative heroin high as you go through your world. That's not functional, right? It's about going through your world really bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like very, very alert and very focused and not easily distracted from whatever it is you want to put your focus on. And we can really hinder that capability if we haven't had enough sleep, if we've overslept, or if we've eaten too much crap, like 5 pieces of pizza instead of 1. You know, it's like, it's interesting. And actually, you can't get to the second meditation without having had the first, because if your mind is full of mental afflictions and you're too tired and you're too full, then you're definitely going to be riffed for some mental afflictions and you're not going to be able to concentrate. So it's kind of logical in that. But here's another way that you can be having the monkey mind, having the chimpanzee mind, is if you're overworking and you have too many projects going on. And so again, you know, it's not that it's necessarily non-virtuous. Like you could be super busy with virtuous things, but if you've taken on more than you're capable of and you're exhausting yourself and it's not joyous effort, then it can be as klesha inducing, as mental affliction building, as if you were junking out on too much pizza and TV, you know? So it's about knowing what your meditative capacity is and being mindful of what can get in the way of that. See, the reason the second one, the deep meditation, is important is because that is what is going to get you to perceive emptiness directly. And once you have done that, then you're already annihilating your mental afflictions. You're a stream enterer. You're on your way out. You know, once you have seen emptiness directly, you are forever changed, and they call you an Arya. You are a stream enterer, and that is the beginning of destroying all of your mental afflictions. So that's why we want to go for that. Okay? So the first kind of meditation, the all-day meditation, the office meditation, prevents the mental afflictions from coming, or it curbs the mental afflictions from arising. And the second one, the deep meditation, lets you focus on profound objects like dependent origination or understanding emptiness. And it will rip out the very foundation of the mental afflictions, and it will help you destroy them completely. So the first one, protects you on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, which is useful. And the second one is going to actually rip out what it's going to rip out is your misunderstanding of reality. Because anytime we're upset or unhappy or suffering in any way, it's because we have misapprehended reality. We think that things are coming at us rather than from us. And it's a fundamental mistake that we make, actually. Okay, so now that Master Shantideva has clarified that, he tells us that in order to avoid these kinds of distractions, you must achieve isolation. So it's interesting. He means that you need to achieve isolation in 3 different ways. The first is the obvious one, physical isolation. And this is what we think of when we think of meditation, right? We think of, even if it's like a morning practice, we think of a quiet space where no one bothers you and you're isolated from sensory objects and distractions, right? We think of it as that way. It's a physical isolation. We also think of it in terms of retreat, getting yourself out of the city, getting yourself to a physical location that is away from the distractions of everyday life. And it is important to find the time and place for both of those. That's one type of isolation. Another type of isolation, interestingly enough, he calls social isolation. And this is where you isolate yourself from social environments that ruin your ability to meditate. So it means don't hang around too much with people who are going to distract you from what's important for your practice. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be compassionate. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be friendly with others. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be social. A bodhisattva is not antisocial, okay? But it does mean that you don't put yourself into situations that are going to be so distracting that it's going to ruin your meditation. And this doesn't have to be at a pub over pints either. This can be in a Dharma group and too much gossiping about the teacher or the class or whatever. I have to say, we're very, very blessed here. I haven't seen this happen, but I have heard of it happening in other Dharma centers where there's just this environment of chit-chat, of gossiping about what's going on or not going on within the Dharma center or another one. And, it's Dharma people talking Dharma, but it's still this type of social distraction. And he's basically saying you have to watch that. You have to minimize that. The third one is mental isolation, which is actually the most important one. You have to be able to gain the ability to withdraw from the things around you. So even if you don't physically remove yourself, into your meditation room or into your meditation retreat, that you have cultivated this meditative state of mind, which means you can withdraw. And that's another isolation. I have to say, I'm finally back. Mary Jane, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually back working. I was self-employed for quite a while, but I'm actually back in an office in a middle management position, and I share an office. Like the executive offices are shared with 4 people. So the executive director does not have their own office. Like that, it's shared with the director of the museum. It's shared with me, and it's shared with the accountant. So, and everybody is quite good at their personal space and not getting too distracted by each other's conversations. But it's also very convenient that if you need to talk to the other person, you can just turn around and talk to them. But what's really interesting, I've noticed, is that my meditation practice that I have been taught here and that I've practiced and that I've had the good fortune to go on 3 very, well, up to 2-month retreats, those practices, I realized the other day, have given me the skill to tune all of them out and focus on whatever I need to focus on, which is usually like writing a major grant or putting together a proposal, or Leonardo says she's not catching the Ustream.
I'm not sure why.
There was an email from
Joyce.
Joyce.
Yeah, but I put it on HD.
Okay.
So I did click that one. It was this thing? This
Okay.
she asked me to click?
Instead of the L thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
That looks like it's recording.
Maybe it was just because the screen was blank. Who knows?
Let's hope.
So, but I have noticed that I've been able to do that, and I actually didn't realize I was doing it until we were getting some computer support, and I was answering a question, and then we had finished our conversation, so I went back to whatever I was doing, and various people were talking, and then the tech continued to talk to me, and I didn't realize that. Like I just thought our conversation, so I could hear her voice, but I was totally focused, and she actually had to get my attention, and I apologized to her. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were still speaking to me," and I said, "Because I have an ability to tune you out." She goes, "Yeah, I noticed you could do that." And it wasn't that I was ignoring her, it was just that I had managed to, and you know what? My meditation skills are pretty baby steps, right? I'm not a great meditator, but I do know that from the what little practice I have managed here, I've managed to develop that, which is really cool and very useful when you're on deadline for things. And, I didn't have to remove myself to another room or anything like that. So I tell you, it's an immediate benefit for your everyday life to develop your meditative skills. Okay. So those are the 3 types of isolations that Master Shantideva recommends we cultivate. And then he talks about the 2 causes of distraction. Remember the 2 main obstacles were dullness and agitation? Well, he says the 2 main causes of distraction, the 2 main causes of what ruins our ability to meditate are, on one hand, inner, and on the other hand, outer. So there's inner causes and outer causes. And the inner causes, he says, the main one is some type of attachment. And we talked about this last class. It's basically the attachment to me and mine, right? To think of yourself as fixed and self-existent. And so it's an attachment to this on one hand, and to, our stuff, right? And that attachment will ruin your meditation, but it can also be attachment to sense objects, attachments to your friends or your partners, your loved ones, your family. But the main causes of inner obstacles, inner distractions, inner causes for distractions are these attachments. you cannot focus your mind inward if it's focusing on things outside of you, which is interesting because even this is outside of you, actually, outside of your concentration, right? If you think of it as a self-existent thing. So unless you can release your mind from other objects, food, sex, thoughts about other projects, even your concept of yourself, until you can withdraw from that, you won't be able to meditate. And it's interesting, that concept of yourself is really subtle. I know that when I was in my meditation retreat, the long one, and I was doing a particular practice, and actually as you start to get better at it, your breath starts to slow down. And at one point I thought, I'm not breathing. But as soon as I had the thought, I couldn't not breathe. Do you know what I mean? Like it was because a part of me freaked out, and a part of me was still attached to the fact that I needed to breathe. And had I been able to not have that attachment, I might have gone somewhere with that. But I didn't. I couldn't get beyond this idea that I needed to breathe. And I don't even think I was not breathing for very long. It was just my mind going, you're not breathing. And then in that thought, it was like, So, but that is a very subtle, it's an attachment to me. It's an attachment to, regardless of how much studying I had done up until that point, it was a reflex, it was a ripening. And that's one of the things that will keep you from being able to meditate deeply. So we cultivate the detaching through all of these things, through being more mindful during your day, by going on retreats, all of that stuff. And that inward attachment really is at a deep, subtle level. No matter how intellectually we understand emptiness, we are still not getting it. I mean, if you're still getting any sense of irritation, frustration, boredom, like anything like that, then that's a mental affliction, and any mental affliction is also coming from a place where we don't get it yet. So we are constantly working with these things, with these emotions, right? And perfecting our perfections so that we do get it. And when we do get it, it's not going to be, oh, I get it. It's not going to be that at all. You will just get it. Yeah. Things just will not appear that way to you at a certain point. So, Geshe says it's really, really interesting to get this inner type of, to start letting go of this inner attachment in an extended meditation retreat. It takes about 2 weeks before your mind will even go there. So if your retreats are not long enough, you won't have given yourself the opportunity to. It's like a yoga pose. You have to hold it for a certain amount of time before you will get the release, right? Doesn't mean you don't get a workout. Doesn't mean that you're not, doing something. But if you really, really want the release, then that's where, practices like Iyengar, and there's certain practices that really teach that, where they will hold something for 2 minutes because it takes that long to get the release, right? So like that, apparently in meditation, you need to, that's why 1 month is a recommended time for a serious meditation, because it takes at least 2 weeks to really get deep. And then you might only be deep for a few days, and then you're already starting to come out. They say it's like a grain of rice, that you should start slow, get intense, and then ease your way out. And that cycle happens regardless of whether you meditate for 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month. But in the 1 month, that part takes about 2 weeks, which is about how long it takes for our minds to be ready to detach. So it's interesting. Okay, so that's the internal. The external, the outward attachment that ruins our meditations, is say nyepa. Nyepa means money, getting things, clothes, food, house, car, career, etc. So what destroys your meditation is your attraction to nyepa, to these outward things. Basically material wealth. But get this, material wealth and the opinions of others. So it's not just things, but what other people think of you. If you're attached to praise. Some of you know the 8 worldly thoughts. I'm happy when people like me. I'm unhappy when they don't. This is not necessarily in the right order. I'm happy when I feel good. I'm unhappy when I'm not. I'm happy when somebody praises me. I'm unhappy when somebody criticizes me. I'm happy when I'm famous or well known. I'm unhappy when I'm not. Like those are the 8 worldly thoughts, and this would fall. They don't refer to the 8 worldly thoughts here, but the 8 worldly thoughts would fall into the area of outward distractions, of outward obstacles, outward attachments. If you want to ruin your meditation, get distracted by the pursuit of money, fame, other people's approvals, and you can be guaranteed it will work to disturb your meditation. So then Master Shantideva says, are you ready for another long one? Shine, Rubdu, Yempeha, Tongi, Nyomong, Lampar, Jampar, She, Chinne, Tomar, Shine, Selcharte, Nangi, Chikten, Chapa, Mela, Nungeju. So this means that that was very long. For the translation is, you must reach a point where you combine the highest form of meditation and the highest form of wisdom. And the 2 words that were in there that we're going to focus on now is shine and hlaktong. Shine is synonymous to shamatha in Sanskrit, and hlaktong is synonymous to vipassana or vipassana in Pali. Shi means peace, and ne means to stay. It's often translated as calm abiding, and Geshe really doesn't like that translation because it's not about being calm. He has this, we're going to, in a second, I'm going to give you his whole argument for why, one of the benefits of meditation is that you become calm, but he says that's not the goal of meditation. And meditation is not about making you calmer about the crap in your life. It's about teaching you to change your world, to change yourself and your world so there is no more crap in your life. And so what this is, the shine, is a meditative quietude, and it's a state of quiet between those 2 obstacles. It's the state of quiet between dullness and agitation. And then vipassana, Geshe translates to special vision, and it's the highest form, the very highest form of wisdom. The very highest form, because in its ultimate form you will, but with that tool, see emptiness directly. And that is the main point of meditation. Calmness is not the main point of meditation. Calmness is a lovely byproduct of meditation, but it's not the point of meditation. The point of meditation is to see emptiness directly, because once you do, then you are guaranteed that your mind will change, your body will change, your world will change, and your suffering will end. That's the point of meditation. So Geshe is going to give us the definition of both shine and hlaktong, And these are actually beautifully described in a different context in ACI 3, the Applied Meditation course. So repeat after me. Let's see if we're going to do the same. No. Okay. This is the definition of shamatha. Rangi, mikpala,
Mikpala,
sechiktu,
Sechiktu,
nyamparshak,
Nyamparshak,
topki,
Topki,
shinjang,
Shinjang,
ki,
Ki,
dewa,
Dewa,
kepar,
Kepar,
chengi,
Chengi,
simbe,
Simbe,
tingenzen.
Tingenzen.
Guess what tingenzen is? That's the single pointed focus. So that translates to, are you ready? My lama says pack a lunch. That single-mindedness, which is imbued with the exceptional bliss of practiced ease.
A what?
Practiced ease.
Practice ease.
Wait, there's more. Due to deep single-pointed meditation on its object. I'll say that again. Shamatha, the definition is that single-mindedness which is imbued with the exceptional bliss of practiced ease due to deep single-pointed meditation on its object. Here's the definition of vipassana. Oh, Leonardo's in. Okay, here's the definition of vipassana. Repeat after me. Rangi,
Rangi,
tenshine,
Tenshine,
laten,
Laten,
nerangi,
Nerangi,
mikpa,
Mikpa,
la sorsorche,
La Sorsorche,
toki,
Toki,
shinjang,
Shinjang,
ki dewa,
Ki Dewa,
kiepar,
Kepar,
chengi,
Chengi,
simpe,
Simpe,
shara.
Shara.
So this is, vipassana is that wisdom which is full of the exceptional bliss of practiced ease by power of the analysis of its object and which is founded upon quietude. I will say that again. Vipassana is that wisdom which is full of the exceptional bliss of practiced ease by power of the analysis of its object and which is founded upon quietude. So the difference being, shamatha was the single-mindedness imbued with exceptional bliss based upon practiced ease, right? And vipassana is the wisdom full of exceptional bliss of practiced ease by the power of analysis on its object. But it's founded upon quietude, whereas the shamatha was due to single-pointed meditation. So they both have focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But shamatha is the platform upon which, shamatha is the platform of stillness, of focus, of concentration, upon which vipassana focuses your mind like a laser-like beam on its object. Okay? So vipassana is the high state of meditation in which you are analyzing and understanding emptiness, and it is based upon shamatha. Shamatha is a tool, not a goal. Shamatha is the ability to meditate deeply, and you must be able to get to shamatha if you're ever going to see emptiness directly. And here's the thing. Shamatha is they say you have to get to shamatha, and I want to clarify that because shamatha is not a destination or a location. It's a state of mind. It's a state of practice. It's a state of comfort with your inward focus. It's a level of quietude where you are able to then provide the environment for Vipassana to kick in. But even Vipassana is not a destination, it's a way of focusing your mind. Both of these things, if you're going to see emptiness directly, do happen in a different place from where you are right now. Right now, you are in the desire realm. We are all in the desire realm. In order to get to what we call the direct perception of emptiness, of seeing ultimate reality directly, you have to go somewhere else. You have to go to another realm. How you do that is with your mind. You keep your body here, you park your body here, and that's why we have to get good at meditation, at sitting meditation. And then your mind goes here. Say samten, dangpoi, dangpoi. Yeah, samten, dangpoi, nirdok, michokme. Say that again. Samten, dangpoi, nirdok, michokme. This is the first level or the first stage of the form realm. So if you guys remember, for those of you who have taken ACI, we're in the desire realm, and then there's the form realm, and then there's the formless realm. And here's the thing, if you get really practiced and really adept at meditation, and you don't understand why you're meditating, you're just getting off on the high of meditating. Because if you get good at meditating, it will feel blissful. It will feel really good. And you can actually get addicted to that. And if you keep going, you can actually end up in the formless realm, which will feel really, really great until all your karma to stay there runs out, right? That's still in the realm of suffering. So we don't want to go there. Like, you know that you can, but the real purpose of meditation is to get to this, that samten dangpo nirdok michokme, that first level of the form realm. So this is what happens when I said you have to go somewhere. Your body stays here, but your mind goes to the first level. And that form realm has many levels, which is actually explained in another ACI class, ACI course, but all you need to worry about is the first level, because that's where your mind will go to perceive emptiness directly. And in fact, when you're not going to know you're there while you're there, because they say it's non-conceptual. But when you come out, they say you literally feel like you're coming down. Like you will feel like you're descending back into your body. And it's only when you come out of it that you will then realize what you have just seen. And then you experience what they call Jetobhyasha, the subsequent realizations. So we have to get to this samten dangpo nirdok michokme, this first level of the form realm. And in order to do that, you have to be able to reach shamatha, this quiet platform upon which to practice your insight, which is another word you can use for vipassana, insight of the wisdom. And this whole exceptional bliss of practiced ease, because both had the bliss of practiced ease in them, right? Is really just explaining what happens when you get good at meditating. Your winds go into your central channel and the feeling is blissful. It's love, basically. And they do say that your ultimate bodhicitta, your heart chakra cracks open, and your ultimate bodhicitta happens very, very closely to your ultimate perception of ultimate reality. Like that true cracking open of your bodhicitta, which is an outpouring of love. So of course that's all going to feel very, very blissful, right? So, but all of that, the vipassana, that insight of wisdom, is founded on quietude. So you can think of shamatha as the quietude and the vipassana as the insight. And you need both. So those of you who have Bodhisattva vows, Do you remember the one that says you break this vow if you aren't working to eliminate 5 obstacles? There is a vow, and so we're going to run through these, but what's really interesting is that these 5 obstacles come from Arya Nagarjuna.
Come from.
Arya Nagarjuna.
Oh, okay.
He wrote them in a letter to a king. And by the way, this is Buddhist trivia, and you can probably win a good Buddhist drinking game with this of chai tea. His other name is Lu Dup. Lu Dup. I never remember that until I review this class. I'm like, who's Lu Dup? And it's Arya Nagarjuna. Yeah. Arya Nagarjuna just sounds much more noble, but his Tibetan name is Lu Dup. He was a great scholar, a Sanskrit scholar who lived in the 3rd century, around 200 AD. And sometimes they call him the second Buddha. He's the expert on emptiness, remember? Yeah. So he wrote a book called Sheting, which means letter to a friend, and his friend was the king. Because that's the type of relationships that great Buddhist scholars had in ancient India. And Geshe says it's really interesting, the karma to see emptiness directly and the karma to be like the leader of the known world is very similar. It's a similar,
very
similar.
Okay.
And so in ancient India, often the highest teachings were moved forward or made public by these leaders, by these kings. And it's a really interesting, it's a karma to be in each other's lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, actually that just reminds me about the whole karma thing. Like they say that healing doesn't come from medicine. Like you have to have the karma to be healed, right? And that, so it's not the doctor who cures you, it's your karma that cures you or doesn't, right? But it's what's really interesting is the karma to be cured and the karma to have the doctor who can cure you is a very similar karma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so here are the 5 obstacles to meditation as originally outlined in Arya Nagarjuna's letter to his friend, the king. The first one is restless desire, which is missing someone, something, or someplace. And this is what we were talking about, that monkey mind, that chimpanzee mind. This is that obstacle, restless desire. Mm-hmm. And remember, it can be a virtuous thing that your mind jumps off to, but if it's jumping off, it's still restless desire. Yeah. Because it's ruining your meditation, which was supposed to be on something else, right? Now, if your meditation is about how you're going to achieve this Dharma project, and that's where you work out, sometimes I actually work out teaching plans on my cushion. Although I try not to do that too much on my cushion because I can do that out, and it's I should be doing other focused things on my cushion. But still, if that is the focus of your day, like you're going to work out and actually sometimes great insight comes in. You know, so if you do have a project that you're trying to solve or a work dilemma that you haven't quite figured out, it is good to, we call it take it to your cushion. It's a perfect place to do the analytics and to do all of that. If that is the focus of your meditation, then let your mind go wild within that context. But if that is not the object of your meditation for that session, and you're supposed to be thinking about, say it's Tonglen, say you're giving and taking from this one person, all of a sudden you're thinking, but I got to go do this and I got to go do that and what's for breakfast and, you know, like what am I going to make for breakfast for my loved one? That's a virtuous thing, but it's not your object of meditation. So that's the monkey mind. That's the restless desire. And that missing someone or something or someplace, that actually is very common in retreat, in isolated solitary retreat. Especially if you've left someone behind to go do it, because the first thing that you do is get really lonely, and you know, or you worry about them, or whatever, but it's because your mind is still attached. Like you haven't detached, and that's part of this too. Yeah. And it's a type of desire. Missing things is also interesting. It's the ability to, if you're missing something or someone, you're not actually in the present moment. You are actually living in the past, or you're living like your mind has gone to the past, or your mind has gone somewhere else other than where you are right here and now. Right?
Is there a difference between missing someone and the love for a teacher?
Yes. And the love for someone, be it your teacher or not, because eventually everyone is our teacher, right? Or that's ultimately what we're trying to see. But say you've left your partner at home and you, in meditation, just feel this overwhelming love for them, and it's not distracting you. If this is part of what you're cultivating, then that's not this downfall. But if you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're like just aching to be with them and missing them desperately, then that's a distraction from what you're supposed to be doing, right? So yeah. So, and they actually do say focusing on your teacher is a really good antidote. Like to think of your highest object and to just focus is really, really a beautiful practice. They also say if you do have a partner, you should actually see your highest teacher and your partner and then meld them. Yeah. I'm off-roading, sorry. Okay, next one. So that was the first one. Restless desire or missing someone is all one obstacle. Second one is called feelings of malice. Thinking that you would like to hurt someone. So it's not as frequent as desire. They say desire hurts your meditation about 80% of the time. Okay. Anger or thoughts of wanting to hurt someone. Geshe-la says, thinking about the husband you divorced last year destroys your meditation. Or if you're, or actually, I heard what was this? There was someone told me this story. I can't remember if it was my friend Matthew from Zurich or somebody told me this story about someone who came out of 3-year retreat. No, it was someone from Diamond Mountain. Someone came out of 3-year retreat. Doing a 3-year retreat, not in our lineage, but doing a 3-year retreat in India, came out and proceeded to encounter this person I know who happens to be a monastic. And this monastic who came out of 3-year retreat said to their friend the monastic that they had been so angry at them for the full 3 years. Yeah, well, one, it was a major confession, but two, it was a major waste of 3 years, right? To just be focused on that. And they were still mad at them when they came out. So it's, it will ruin your focus. It will ruin your contemplation. And if you get obsessed about someone you don't like, it will destroy your meditation completely. Yeah. So the third one is also a more than one, but is all in one. It's dull and drowsy. They go together. And the word for dullness, for mental dullness in Tibetan is the same word for fog. And we even say that in English, right? I have a foggy brain. If you don't get enough sleep, this can happen. It doesn't matter how much you want to concentrate or how good you are at it or how perfect the circumstances are. If your mind is dull, you won't be able to concentrate. The fourth one is attraction to objects of the senses. This is if you are distracted by music or food or sex or any of the things of the desire realm. It will ruin your meditation. Although I have to say, in my meditation retreats, it doesn't happen often, but once in a while, very profoundly, music would come to me. So, I don't know. I have to think about that one. I mean, I'm giving you the lung, and if you're distracted by, so obviously don't play top 40, and stuff. But I have to say, and some people are more visual, but I have to say I personally have had experiences where music comes to me, and I will hear music I've never heard before. So I think that's something else. Well, they say in the Yogic Sutras, right, that as you get quiet and as you get really attuned to your inner body, you will hear sounds that sound very much like musical instruments.
Yeah, and hear smells too, or
Smells, yeah, exactly. So, one of the Diamond Mountain people in 3-year retreat right now, Susan Stumpf, you may have heard of her, Holy Susan Stumpf. She smells things when she gets really, really still. Yeah. Like smells that no one else can smell, Yeah. It's interesting. I also find that deep retreat makes me very sensitive to smells, to physical smells. Like when I come out, I can smell fear. And I can smell love. Like it's really interesting. They smell very different, and you can smell it on people. It goes away after a while, but when you're first very, very still, it's because you've withdrawn from the senses, so your senses get very heightened, right? It's interesting. So those are the 5 obstacles to meditation.
And what's the 5th one?
What was the 5th? Oh, sorry. Doubt. Doubt is the 5th one. Yeah. Now, there is a difference between good doubt and bad doubt. Okay, so we're talking about the bad doubt. The good doubt is when you're unsure of something, but you've decided to shelve it until you have more information or experience. The bad doubt is the lazy doubt, the doubt that says, I don't believe that and I don't care why. Or I could figure that out. I could tell you why if I wanted to, but I just don't want to. It's that type of doubt. It's a wimpy not being able to make up your mind about it. It's actually a form of laziness to have that kind of doubt. But it's that hypercritical, skeptical doubt that is almost proud of being doubtful. There's a weird. It's not a healthy. It's an ignorant doubt. It's not a healthy doubt. Healthy doubt is good. And even the Buddha said, don't take what I say at face value. You have to test it. You have to test it like you would test a precious metal like gold. You have to fire it with your own intellect. You have to. He said to the fire, you have to scratch it, you have to, do these different things to it, use a touchstone. And then the analogies are that you have to use your own discernment, you have to learn from authoritative sources, you have to use your own experiential knowledge, like you have to test it with all of these things. And that's actually a good doubt, but that's not the type of doubt that will distract you. It's the other kind. So those are the 5 obstacles to meditation. And to be clear, remember we said there were 2 kinds of meditation at the beginning, the all-day meditation and the deep meditation. This is actually more to do with your all-day meditation, believe it or not. So all day, remember our goal is to try and keep our minds really that bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And this is, and I can attest to it, this is what will make you good at problem solving at work. It will make you good at, that's the other thing. Other than being able to tune people out, I have on more than one occasion now been able to help solve a problem that everyone else seems to have not been able to figure out. One was to do with money, where they thought money had been stolen, and they were trying to trace a certain amount of money. And no one could explain why this check had been cashed. A substantial amount of money had been cashed. And finally, the accountant, remember I shared the office with the executive director, the director, and the accountant? The accountant turns to me and says, I don't know where this money is, and look, and I looked at her screen, because banks send you all the information. Just looked at her screen and she says, look, it's been cashed. And I said, can you zero in on that? And she zooms it up. And the bank has approved it with no signature. And I said, look, no one signed the back of the check. Like, you have to sign the back. Well, now you can do the photo thing, but even that has ID attached to it, right? And so, like, no one had authorized the check, because I said, if we can see who signed it, we can figure out who cashed it. There was no signature. I said, okay, well, that there, right there, you can go to the bank and ask, why did they cash that? I mean, they're responsible for that. There's no, so that was one solution, but she was still a little upset about it. And I said, and by the way, have you checked to see if the group that was claiming this money was lost, if someone in their group had actually cashed it? Because it looks like it was cashed with a whole bunch of other things. And I said, the only reason a bank would not require signatures if they knew the person so well that they would have just assumed, like, they wouldn't have noticed it wasn't signed, right? Guess what? Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And that doesn't seem so complicated, but I got to tell you, these people were up in arms for days and getting madder and madder at each other, like each one trying to blame the other side for this loss. And it turned out that the original group who had claimed the money was missing were the actual people who had cashed it. And it was someone who doesn't normally cash it but had been making the deposits. And again, you know, I don't need to give you all the details, but it was really interesting in that it was very easy for me to look at it and go, what about that? Like, I didn't know it was the answer, but it was just being able to hone in on something, right? And a couple of times things like that have happened on the job. And for me, it's taken no time at all. So I can't actually take any great claim to, I can't, because it was just so clear. It was just so clear. And it's not that everybody else was stupid and I'm so smart. It's not that. It's just that thanks to this practice, thanks to working on this, and I have to say, I have not perfected it, but I'm working on it. And thanks to the working on it, it is already showing up as useful skills in the workplace, you know, and that is, you can take that to the bank, right? Quite literally. So it's very good for problem solving at work. Okay, last things in this particular class, it's really interesting. I'm not exactly sure, but I guess he's talking about distractions, major distractions. There's a section in this chapter on the perfection of meditation on relations between opposite sexes. And it is considered a major distraction and will ruin your meditation. So Master Shantideva goes into, and this is a homework question, by the way, that says, name the 5 things that Master Shantideva says to avoid when courting the opposite sex, and then describe the attitude that might be appropriate once you have succeeded in courting someone of the opposite sex. So interesting that this high monastic would be teaching other monks on what to do about meeting a partner, right? But interesting. So here's the 5 things that you should not do when you are courting someone. Do not go and beg them to have a relationship with you and make a fool of yourself. That's the first thing. Do not avoid no bad deed to attract them, meaning that you would do bad deeds to attract them. Don't avoid a bad deed. So yeah, basically I'm giving you so here's the way, these are the 5 things not to do. Things not to do. 1, go and beg them to have a relationship with you. 2, avoid no bad deed in seeking to attract them. 3, go after them and don't worry about anybody else. 4, engage in reckless and dangerous behavior to get them. And 5, using up all your money and resources in order to attract them. These are the 5 things you should not do. Okay? And then the second part of the question was, but once you have them, what is the appropriate behavior, the attitude? And this is what Geshe-la translated. And it's done, remember these were monks, right? So it's done as she comes because they're all men. But he says you can substitute whatever. So they finally come to your house. Your partner, your perfect partner, finally comes to your house. And you lift the silken veil from their face and look into their gentle, loving eyes. This is the attitude you're supposed to have. Think about how that same face will lie rotting under the death shroud, and the birds of prey will come to the burial ground to lift the veil that they so gently lift for you now. And then you will know exactly how they really look, and you will run away as fast as your legs can carry you. If they finally reveal their beautiful body to you as you look at it, if you're smart, you should know that what you're seeing is a dead body, and you should see the maggots crawling all over it and the flies, and stop wasting your time, your money, and your reputation and your pride. What is the benefit? What is the goal? It's a dead body which is rotting. It's going to sit there and rot. So then the objection comes and says, yeah, but okay, I know they're going to die in 20 or 50 years, but right now they're warm, they're nice, and they smell good. So Master Shantideva says, it takes a lot of brainwashing from your culture to not see the truth that this is a normal, mortal, dying, suffering bag of flesh. And he then says, cut the crap and go after nirvana together. That the purpose of a relationship is a spiritual relationship. He's not saying don't have a partner, but he's saying if you're going to have one, don't waste your time with the normal reasons for having a partner. The bottom line is that you should be doing something meaningful with them. Go and meditate with them. Achieve enlightenment with them. Do something that is helpful. The rest is just two people wasting each other's time and dying. That's what Master Shantideva has to say about dating. Okay? And then the last thing he talks about is money. So he's hitting all the points, right? Money, relationships, health, basically. So he says in this chapter, if you don't dedicate your younger years to the pursuit of money, you won't have any big amount when you get older. Which is kind of true, right? Mm-hmm. Then he says, if you do dedicate your younger years to the pursuit of money, then you will be too exhausted by the time you get it to enjoy it. So basically what he's saying about both is don't get distracted by it. Like, don't let it keep you from cultivating the perfection of meditation. So get good at meditation all day, and that doesn't have to be, don't think that you have to be on your cushion all day. This is about cultivating that bright-eyed and bushy-tailed state of mind, of learning how to not fall prey to those 5 obstacles to meditation. Basically, to avoid thinking about others in an angry or a conflicted way, basically to battle your mental afflictions, right? And to avoid those 2 extremes of being overly agitated or overly dull. And then at the same time, as you're trying to maintain the state of meditation all day, make sure you take yourself into deep meditation. So give yourself the opportunity, either in your daily practice or on retreats, to get into deep meditation. And in both, we need the perfection of meditation, right? So the point is that we are going to be meditating all day long in retreat or in our morning sessions or in our evening sessions. And we're going to be trying to get into deep states of meditation. And that will get you to the end of suffering. And that is this chapter, or today's class on the perfection of meditation. Any questions? We kind of breezed through that one. It's a lovely class.
Yeah, it was a really good class.
Yeah, It was really, really sweet. So this weekend, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, is a meditation urban meditation retreat here. Lots of time to practice. Drop-ins are welcome. If they are in session, the door will be closed and you have to wait for the next break. But they're doing them in shamatha gadakas. So the gadakas are 24 minutes long with a 6-minute break. So it's not like you have to wait too long if you come in between. And that's happening all weekend with Doug Vienhoff. And then for those who are going to the Loon Lake retreat, that goes from Monday for a week. So no ACI class here on Tuesday, no meditation here on Wednesday, and we will reconvene the following week. Okay? So if any of you aren't going on the retreat, I will be in town, and if you have any questions or want to have a Dharma tea or whatever on that night instead, let me know. And we will pick up with class 8 the week after next. So 3 more classes left. And then final debate practice. You could do it in Tibetan if you want. Either.
Sashi, Puki, Jukshin, Leto, Drum, Rira, Lingshin, Yante, Gyalpadi, Sange, Shingdu, Mikte, Uwagi, Drokun, Nandak, Shingla, Chiparsho, Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamyatayavi, Givadi, Gelogu, Sunam Yashe Sotokshin, Sunam Yashe Lejunwe, Tampa Gumita Parsho.
I just wanted to say that after this class ends, so in 4 or 5 weeks, John and I are switching places. So John will start teaching ACI 12, and I'm going to take over the Wednesday night meditation classes, and I'm going to be teaching Bok Jimpa. We're going to call it something else because Bok Jimpa is not a familiar term to everyone, but it was the advanced series of meditation classes that were developed at Diamond Mountain, and it was originally, Bok Jimpa means to light a fire under your practice, to supercharge your practice. I was using the word turbocharge for a while, but I think everyone's using super for everything, so maybe we'll call it supercharge your meditation. But it really is about enhancing whatever level of meditation you have and giving you some advanced skills that you can add to get to the goals that Master Shantideva was talking about today. So, and those classes will be less formal, no formal prayers and stuff. It'll be more, even though the Bok Jimpa classes were taught formally, on the Wednesday nights we're a little bit more conversational but very much about practice. We will be actually doing the contemplations in the class. So that will be for 10 weeks on Wednesday nights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherri.